Welcome and thank you for joining us. I'm so honored to be here and I'm super excited to be sitting and talking with Harry Frampton.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Nicole and I've been with East West family of companies for a long time. I feel like a long time.
How many years?
18,
Oh,
but now 40.
yeah.
And this year coming up in 2026, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of East West Partners and East West Hospitality. Incredible,
Unbelievable.
right?
Yeah, totally.
Totally unbelievable. So I wanted to get in today for our viewers and our listeners about the companies and the story behind the companies, but as much as that, about you, Harry.
Great.
So Harry is our founder, and it's also his birthday today.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
59.
Yeah, 59. Good. That's so
Yeah.
exciting. All right. So let's get into it. Before we talk about East West Partners and East West Hospitality, let's talk first about your story. I don't know why you came to the Vail Valley and settled here, but I'd love to know a little bit of your history, how you ended up to be here, and then what drives Harry? What's the fabric of Harry?
Oh, well, there's a lot of questions.
That's a lot.
I will say it's nice to talk to Nicole this morning on something positive because usually when we get together, there's some HR problem she's got that's very difficult, and we always work them out. But this is more fun. So
It is more fun.
just incredible. I mean, I grew up in a very small town in South Carolina. My father and mom were both in education business. She was a teacher and he was a administrator, et cetera. And it was a town of 5,000 people, and it was kind of a different era, to say the least. They were, you know, children of the war, and just a different kind. And I went off to Clemson University. It wasn't hard to get in back then. You just kind of applied to wherever you went. And I'm not even sure why I went, but I did, and I loved it. And there obviously for 4 or 5 years, and ended up while I was there meeting Susan, my wife, and it's hard to believe that we're having our 60th anniversary here this summer, which is just incredible. We got married, and we were married there last year in school. And luckily, I saw a job offer for a summer job. Actually took me 4.5 years to get out of school, and it was a job at Hilton Head. And Susan, who grew up real close to there in Beaufort, South Carolina, and I just kind of picked up the phone and called and applied, and I was going down that weekend, and I took the initiative, which I think is always important.
Yeah.
And went over to Hilton Head and interviewed for the job and got it.
What was the job?
It was to help out in the real estate office and to do grunt work, nothing special. And I did it and fell in love with the company. It was a very innovative company at the time, started by a guy named Charles Fraser, long before there were any new communities in the United States. There were one or two in California, but none in Florida or South Carolina. And Charles was a Yale Law School graduate, a very innovative, creative thinking person. And it was a great place to get an education. You learn from the company you work for and the people you work for. And I mean, he was in effect the Steve Jobs of the resort development business. I always remember in his, when I was there, he was featured in Time magazine for hiring the most MBAs of any company in the United States.
Really?
And so I had this grunt job, but I was around a lot of smart young people that were give or take my age. And when you're around smart people, it helps you grow. And that was a wonderful experience. And I ended up going back to business school. After getting out of graduate school, I came back to work at Sea Pines, which was a very cool place to be, and did it for a few years, and then ended up getting assigned to go on a project in North Carolina for the Sea Pines Company. And I kind of did that for 10 years, ended up actually in Richmond, Virginia, building a golf course community that was very nice. And I got this crazy call one day about that there was this job opening at in Vail. But it was a recruiter from in New York had gotten my name, and now I got to say I'm thinking about coming to work at a ski resort, and I can't ski, so there was no experience there. But what had happened is the resorts had gotten Vail Associates at the time. It was a public company. It was actually on the New York Stock Exchange and had gotten in trouble financially.
Okay.
And primarily because they'd taken on the redevelopment of Beaver Creek. And they were making money on Vail Mountain, but they were losing more money than they were making
Okay.
on Beaver Creek. And this was around 80 and 81. And so instead of hiring somebody who was a skier, they wanted somebody who had real estate and resort development experiences. And even though um, I, I, I didn't know much about skiing, our company back there very much involved in the golf and tennis business and the resort business. So there were a lot of similarities.
Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, I moved out here in 81, Susan and I, on kind of a lark to take over as president of the ski company. And it's always nice to take over a company when it's really struggling because it gives you an opportunity to advance. So
Sure.
anyway, a little history.
Little history. And by then you had a family. And so you moved the kids.
Yeah, the kids, Matt and Chris were, I forget now, 9 or 10 years old. And, it was an easy time to move them. And Susan and I, it was an adventure. We'd grown up in the South, both of us, and it worked there, forestry finds, but it sounded pretty glamorous. And I can remember coming out here to interview for the job and look at it. It came in May.
Mm.
It wasn't a very nice time, but when I did recognize that Bell Mountain was so special, and that even Beaver Creek, which was struggling at the time, was just the fundamentals were wonderful. So we decided, what the heck?
That's great. Did you know right away that you'd stay here? That you would root down and raise your family here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I was 37 or 38,
Yeah.
and let's give it a shot for 3 or 4 or 5 years. And if it works, great. But if not, we'll go back and so forth. But after being here for a few years, we said, this works for us.
Yeah. What about it worked for you?
I think a couple of things. I think what we liked about it, on one hand, it was a small town.
Mm.
On the other hand, it was a big city. And so you got the benefits of knowing a lot of people and being involved in the community.
Yeah.
But yes, there were cool things going on here, whether it be dance or music or theater or ski racing. And that just was right for us.
It's great. So many people move here for the same reasons. If you just move for a job.
Yeah, and I
stay
think
for
we
life.
also liked that it was in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
And so many of the resorts are very region specific. One of the great things about Vail is we have people from the West Coast, the East Coast, Mexico, you name it. And so, at least in our case, we very much enjoyed that.
That's great. So you moved here in the early 80s, and then somewhere before 1986, you decided to create East West Partners and East West Hospitality. So take us back to that time frame when you were making that decision. What led to that decision to create the two?
Well, it's a great question. We had a good team here: Ross Balco, Mark Smith, and Chris Wright, and others, and so forth. And when George Gillette ended up buying the company, I ended up working for him for 3 or 4 or 5 months as the president. But it was very clear to me at the time that George really wanted to run the company himself.
Okay. This is Vail Associates.
Yeah, Vail Associates. And he had every right in the world to do that. He bought it. He was energetic. He was passionate about skiing. So after 3 or 4 months, I just said, that's not the place for me.
Okay.
And so Susan and I looked at where we're going to live and what we're going to do.
Sure.
And I had a job offer in Fort Worth, Texas, and another one in Chicago. And on the other hand, and not really one in Denver, but Denver was a possibility. And we looked around and we said, well, let's, right now the kids are happy, Matt and Chris, and they're adjusting well. We kind of like it. And why don't we try to build a little business here in the valley? And, I found a piece of land in Beaver Creek, which was really struggling. It's called the Meadows.
Okay.
And we got a contract to buy 10 units from the ski company, which I had previously run. And we got started. That kind of brought 3 people on board at the time. And as we got going, Mark Smith, who had worked for me, both back on the East Coast and here, Chris Wright, who was the controller of the ski company, and so forth, and then Jim Telly. And we kind of got going. And our goal was to build 10 units, and we obviously ended up building a lot more than that, but we just were kind of optimist, I said.
That's incredible. So that's the beginning of East West Partners. Okay. And it's interesting that you named those 3 individuals.
Yeah.
Because they're still, well, Chris is retired now.
Yeah.
but she stayed the entire time
Oh yeah, she
with
was
East
with us
West
for
Partners.
40 years or whatever.
Yeah. JT's still here.
JG's still here.
Mark's still involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's a testament to
Yeah.
the
Well,
company.
we had a good group, and yeah.
What do you think was the glue that held the four of you together through that time?
I mean, I think, well, one, Bell was prospering,
Yeah.
and that gave us a opportunity to build a business here,
Mhm.
and that has to be number one.
Sure.
I was thinking about it the other day that I think y'all at East West Hospitality, your motto is do the right thing,
That's right.
but that's kind of what we did back then. We felt like we were building a product that people would like and they'd get real value out of it. We weren't building widgets in
Yeah.
Kansas City, and yet we all liked living here. So I think it was the energy and enthusiasm of all of that that came together that kept us going.
Is the do the right thing? I mean, I hear that through East West Partners. I hear it
Uh,
in Slifer Smith and Frampton. It is a common mantra for the family of
yeah,
companies. And clearly that stemmed from you and those
yeah.
partners that you had initially and that stayed. But is that always it seems really easy and it seems to it really narrows you in on how you make your decisions, but is it always easy?
No, it's terribly difficult,
Sure.
and it usually involves money, sometimes very complicated people from other parts of the country. But I think if you always kind of remember that, you can usually come up with good solutions. I mean, we've had it for 40 years and nobody sued us.
That's
And
incredible.
that's incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, we've got a couple of fights with
Mhm.
people. We've always been working them out. We try to do the right thing. And so it's a good thing to kind of put in the back of your mind when you face very complicated issues and very um, gray issues
Mhm.
where the answers are not simple.
Is there a time that you can think of our story you can tell about when it was difficult and it turned out great, but it was more expensive, it was more challenging, it was more complex? Is there one that stands out to you?
Well, just thinking back, I mean, we went through, I think, three big recessions.
Yeah.
And I was laughing the other day. I read where since the United States was formed, I guess 1776, there've been 47 recessions.
Is that right?
Incredible. Now, some of them little, some of them
Mhm.
big, 47. And, guess what? Number 48 is out there.
Yeah.
Who knows what it will be? But we had three very tough times. And in all three cases, all of our senior people, top 20 or 30 people, had to take salary cuts
Mhm.
in order for us not to have to lay off too many people. I think one year it was 20%, another year it was 30 or 40. So
Mhm.
we've had some tough issues and so forth. But that's kind of the nature of business. I mean, you kind of tend in your own mind sometimes to forget those moments.
Yeah.
But we faced through recessions that were very difficult and required different responses.
Mhm.
And, I was also reading that Warren Buffett, the great investor, said since he started his company, which was like 78 or 9, something like that, three times since then, the stock market has gone down 50%.
Huh, I didn't realize
50%. I
that.
didn't either.
Wow.
And, you know, s- so, and he did great,
Mhm.
but he had to deal with some very tough issues. So
Yeah.
to think that there are not more of those difficult times out front would be very naive.
Kinda silly, wouldn't
You
it?
just got to respond to them.
And you said every time is different.
Every one of them's different. I mean, obviously, the worst one our company faced was really '08, and because in that particular case, several of our lenders
Mhm.
went under,
Okay.
and that's one of the toughest things you can face. But we figured out how to survive it.
Incredible. Well, the Westin opened in 2008. Was
Oh,
that part
God,
of that?
fall of '08, we had roughly 200 units that were supposed to close.
Right.
And the world was teetering and we had good deposits, but we only lost one or two closings. I mean, out of roughly 200.
That's amazing,
Totally
particularly in that time.
amazing. And it was difficult because for the first year or two out of that, the prices that those people paid went down. They weren't
Mhm.
worth what they paid for them.
Mhm.
Now, for those people that held on for a while, they ended up being a good, solid investment. But it required, you had to kind of go back and say the fundamentals are good
Right.
and we'll work our way out of this.
So I want to talk about the fundamentals and the values in a few minutes, but now I want to hear a little bit more about East West hospitality.
Yeah.
So simultaneously, as you're working with
Yeah.
Chris and Mark and JT on East West Partners, you're also doing and having the planning for East West hospitality. What led to that?
Well, we were getting the first project or two finished.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, there was nobody in the valley then
Mm.
who provided any serious property management.
Okay.
And Ross Bowker, who would work for us, it couldn't work for us. He had that in his background.
Okay.
And so we were worried about selling those first 25 units up in Beaver Creek. And we decided we'd do a little property management business. We had no idea we'd ever have 1,800 employees. There was no great
Sure.
strategic plan. It was, well, how do we provide services for those first projects, which we, and we hope to do a couple more. And Ross had a young lady named Mary Jo Peters, I think was her name.
Okay.
And she was our one employee to manage the meadows. And there were kind of three reasons, as I think back, why we did that. I mean, number one, we thought by providing good property management services, it would help us sell the units. Sure. Because it's not just buying units, what's the experience afterwards? We secondly thought that it would be, it would solve problems when people moved in. That when we had problems with the refrigerator or the heating system, if we had the property management company working in combination, we could go, in essence, resolve those. And then third, we thought it would help us sell it in future projects. If you have happy customers for buying those first Meadows units and living in them, then they would refer their friends and prospects, and that really happened. But I can assure you, we had no idea we'd ever have 1,800 employees.
Wasn't your intention.
It was not our intention. It was no great plan. It was what do we need to do to get through the next 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Okay. And did those two companies sort of grow at the same pace because of the relationship then?
Good question. Kind of. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, obviously, yeah, I think that's a good thing. I mean, we obviously now manage a lot of properties that were not developed by East West Partners, but for those first 10 years, it was almost exclusively the projects that we built.
Okay. And Ross, you mentioned Ross. Ross Bowker was the CEO of East West Hospitality for many, many years.
I'm not even sure we had titles at the
I know.
time, but Ross was actually helping us on the development side, and he'd been in charge of operations at their resorts. And Ross is multi-talented. I mean, he ended up actually building the Hyatt. He was the project manager, not the project manager. He was in charge of that process, and he and JT worked together on that. I always think it's a funny thing about JT. Like so many people that work for, he started at Bell Resorts. And what did he do? He was an assistant accountant for food service, which was run by Paul Golden. If you've seen those old pictures of JT, he was like a bum from wherever, and but he was a food service accountant, and he actually ended up working with Ross, and they formed a great team.
That's great. I love that. I want to string together a little bit more of the commonalities between the two companies. Well, maybe ask this first. At what point did they become two distinct companies? Were they initially like that? Did you have a specific thought about keeping them separate, or did you always consider them under one umbrella, or what's your...
We weren't that thoughtful about it. We were just trying to, how do we make payroll for the next 6 months? How do we keep the company going? There was not this brand beautiful strategy that was written up. I mean, it was much more short-term oriented. But we did understand that if the three efforts of developing things, managing or selling things, and then managing, that kind of 1 + 1 + 1 would equal to 4, 5, or 6. And obviously that evolved over time, but I think it really does make a difference, because I think one of our great strengths is we have a good reputation. We have a good brand in all three of them. And so that's helped each of the three to grow. If they would have been siloed projects, they would not have grown nearly as well.
That's probably right. Well, on that note, the good brand, good reputation, I really want to hit on what are the core values that you've sort of lived and breathed, aside from, and in addition to do the right thing. They seem to have a common thread between the three companies.
Yeah, well, I think I've always felt like if we treated our employees well, they would do a great job in managing and building relationships with customers. You hear a lot in business books about take care of the customers.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's quite right. I think if you take care of employees, they will then take care of customers, which obviously you need to do. And I think we've always done that. We've respected our employees. We've involved them in the process of running our company so they feel like they're making a meaningful contribution. We paid them reasonably well,
Yeah.
and given, I think, benefits that are in essence appropriate.
I would agree with that.
Yep.
After working for you
Yeah.
for so many years as a founder of a company, I can't imagine a better founder but for the
Yeah.
HR person,
Terrific.
because at so many times I think I can count them on, like I can talk about them. I mean, you called
Yeah.
me, I think in 2015 and said, we need to raise the minimum wage. We're
Right.
not paying enough. I'm tired of watching people work 2 jobs. And
Right.
then it was the sabbatical program. And then it was again the minimum wage. And that's usually from your people telling you we want to do this. What makes you think about, why are those so top of mind?
Well, I
for
think there are
you?
two things. One, I just think instinctively we want to treat our people fairly. They work extremely hard. They've got all complexities of life in a wonderful place and so forth. But I also think it's good business. Good business. Let me say that again, because nothing costs you more than turnover. Turnover is the death. And we worked hard, I think, to reduce that number. And y'all have been successful in doing that. And when you do that, even though you might be paying out more benefits or paying out more minimum wage, you end up saving more money than what you spend.
Yeah.
Because of turnover. I mean, you've been at it, as you say, for 18 years. You learn a lot in 18 years, what works and what doesn't.
So true. And there's so many people aside from Ross and JT and Chris and Mark that
Colleen.
have been here for so long.
Yeah.
There's several of them. What does that mean to you? And not just from that senior leadership group.
Yeah.
They're all over the company.
Yeah.
They started and they rooted down and they've raised their families.
Well, I think it says
What does that mean?
we've treated them well. It's pretty cool. And by the way, I had an influence on that, but it also came from Mark, Ross, and Chris Wright. I think we just assembled a group of people that it wasn't something they had to write. It was just kind of in their DNA that if we treat employees well and treat them fairly, that the company will prosper. And everybody's done that. I mean, 2 great examples. I mean, Colleen started as an assistant accountant for Ross way up in Beaver Creek 30 years ago.
And Colleen Weiss is our CEO.
She's our CEO of East West Hospitality. My other great one is Amy Carr down in Denver. She worked for Arthur Anderson, as you remember, went under.
Yeah.
It was a great company. But she started as a lowly 22-year-old accountant, auditing our books up at the Hyatt. Now she runs all in Denver. So
they have a huge project underway.
Huge project, yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Let's talk more about the projects in East West Partners. How did you go from the Meadows, and what was the next step, and how did you expand from there?
Well, I mean, we did well with the Meadows, and we were looking for other opportunities. We did a couple of like the Highlands, et cetera. And then when we left, shortly after, Mike Shannon became president of under George. And I got to know Mike well, and we built a good relationship. And it was very clear that Beaver Creek, there was no there at the time. And Mike desperately wanted a hotel. And he wanted it for several reasons. One, he thought if there was a good hotel there in Beaver Creek, it would make the rest of his land valuable. And secondly, he knew that if he brought in a good hotel, that would create skiers that would pay every year to ski and so forth. So we worked out a deal with Mike, and I always remember we did over here in the boat building at about 1:00 in the morning, which is where Christie Sports is right now.
Sure.
And all I remember is at that time the trains used to come by, so about every 30 minutes the building would shake. It's been a long time, but we worked that out late in the night. But we worked out a deal to build a Hyatt, and most people will say we out hustle Mike, but we didn't. But we actually ended up buying that piece of land where the Hyatt is for $1.
Okay.
And
good deal.
Yeah, well, it was a good deal for us. And then he gave us the Village Hall for $1. And then we got the rights to build 200 condos up at the Meadows in that area. And we had an option to buy that for $20,000 a unit. And then he paid us 500 grand a year to subsidize the hotel, because they always lose money in the first 2 or 3 years. So you might say, well, why would he have done something like that?
Sure.
Well, I'm going to give Mike all credit. We needed that to make that project financially feasible. But he also benefited because it created a huge amount of skiers that went up on the mountain. And secondly, it made all the rest of their land very valuable. So what was good about that, and George and Mike get lots of credit, they recognized it had to be a win-win.
Okay.
And too often in negotiations, the people in business were looking for a win-lose. I win, you lose. Well, Mike and George didn't feel that way. They had to work for both. And so getting the Hyatt built was a seminal moment.
Yeah.
It didn't get us there, but it was an important step.
Okay. What year was that?
Oh,
You
yeah,
started-
in 89, I think.
Okay.
So probably 87
So
or 88.
this is the first 3 years of forming East West Partners.
Yeah.
That's a major undertaking.
It was pretty early. I mean,
Real early.
Yeah.
And then the rest of Beaver Creek built around that. Is that how that?
Yeah, I mean, the more fascinating thing is we got all that done, and I don't know, 94 or 5, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Bell Resorts Bell Associates was then owned by Apollo.
Okay.
And they had a young guy named Mark Rowan, who was, I don't know, 30 at the most, that was responsible for Vail. And I got to know Mark a little bit. And he came to me and he said, well, the Hyatt's nice, but Beaver Creek, there's no there yet. It really isn't completed. And I'd like for you guys at East West to go back and brainstorm how we can make Beaver Creek special. And if we do, we'll figure out a way for East West to be involved, and we'll figure out a way for y'all to buy a bunch of the land. But we need a plan. And so Mark and I and Ross and so forth, we devoted several days to brainstorming Beaver Creek. And we brought in a couple of experts, a guy named Gordon Pierce, a great architect, Jack Zarin worked on it. And we just, we were approaching crazy things.
Yeah.
And as a part of that, we came up with a plan that would do pretty good stuff. It would, we built an ice rink in the middle. We'd seen that in Sun Valley. We'd seen it in Rockefeller Center. We would put in the escalators, and we'd do a bunch of parking, and we'd do the Lar Center. Now, a lot of that's kind of fun and crazy, but what we knew then is it couldn't be just to pay for by the developer. It was, the plan was going to take everybody in the process to complete all that. And so Bell Resorts was going to have to contribute, which Mark was willing to do. We went to the Metropolitan District, which is the board there in Beaver Creek, the resort company, and then we went to, in essence, individuals to contribute. And as a part of that, we put together a really good plan to get all of that done. And I give Mark a lot of credit for it. And I do what's interesting now. Mark was, a young in charge of this for Apollo. He is now CEO and president of Apollo worldwide.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And that's one of the largest private equity firms in the world. So we got all that done and so forth. There were two funny things that were part of that. I remember at the time we did the surveys, what people hated about Beaver Creek were the stairs. And
I remember the stairs.
The stairs were awful. And you know how to carry skis, but if you're coming from Atlanta and you got to walk up these stairs, it was the death march. And so I got a call from Ross one day, and Ross was in Las Vegas. And he said, I'm riding the escalator between Caesar's Palace and the Mirage, the other hotel. He said, why couldn't we figure out a way to do escalators in Beaver Creek? And I said, well, never thought of that. And that's how it came about. He came back, and I said, I remember at the time, I was worried about whether they'd work or not. So I sent Ross and Dick Funk, and they flew to Europe because there were a couple of ski areas where they had built escalators outside where they had, a lot of terrain. And they did. And they went back and talked to the maintenance people and came back here and said they could work. So we got those escalators built because of Ross's wall between the two. And then I remember the other funny one was the Villar Center, which was ice rink. I mean, that's weird. And we were in that meeting, and Gordon Pierce, who was a really good architect and planner, came up with that idea. And, we also, that sounds kind of interesting and fascinating. And because we wanted that because it would create life.
Sure.
And Beaver Creek really had very little life. And I remember asking Gordon, I said, well, what would that cost? He said, $3 or $4 million. Well, I think we spent $15 million on that to get it built. So we only 100 by 5 times.
And that was 1997 when that happened? Something like that?
Yeah, or somewhere in there, yeah.
Beautiful theater, still thriving.
Yeah, still thriving.
It really did activate that resort.
Yeah, and as a part of that, putting together that master plan, which we got paid out of that entity, but not make a lot of money, we were able to buy 4 parcels in the village at a reasonable price, which we developed over time.
So Villar Center, was that the capstone to the projects in Beaver, to the Beaver Creek master plan?
I think that and the ice rink, the combination of those things. It provided energy and excitement. I mean, even today, you go up there, there's always something going on. Yeah. It's a place you might want to go.
That's right.
Yeah.
So after that, and maybe it was simultaneous, let's stay in East West Partners. When did you decide to venture out of Beaver Creek and the Vail Valley? And why did you do so? Was your next step there?
Yeah, I went to a ULI conference in Denver, and Wellington Webb was the mayor a good while ago, and he was the speaker. And when he made the speech, he talked about his commitment to downtown Denver. And it was a really good speech. And Wellington was kind of controversial, but he was right on that. And what he said was, we have to build housing for people to live downtown. You can't just build a football stadium or a baseball stadium. You got to have people living there. And that he was really committed to doing that. And that kind of felt good to me. And then it finally kind of dawned on me that to some degree downtown Denver and certain parts of it were a resort. I mean, a resort doesn't have to be in the mountains or around a golf course. I mean, in Denver's a lot better today than it was then, but it was a resort. You could go down there and go to sporting events. You could go to great restaurants. You could walk on great areas. You could go shopping. I mean, isn't that a resort? Probably the greatest resort in the world is New York. I mean, it is a resort. Goodness gracious. And so it was kind of fascinating. And I picked up the phone the next morning and called Mark and said, we should do something in Denver. And I've heard about this piece of land down behind the train station. And because of what Webb's doing, it's close. You can get there. It's an hour and a half, 2 hours from Vail. And so we both got kind of interested in it. And Mark, I don't know exactly, he said, I might not want to move down there and take that over. And I said, well, that'd be great. And so we called our financial partner and made the pitch and ended up buying Riverfront Park, relatively shortly after that. And then obviously there have been 2 or 3 different phases since then. But Mark ran it for many, many years and did an incredible job.
Yeah.
It's a resort.
It's a resort.
Right. If you live in the mountains, and we always thought a lot of our first buyers would be people that lived in the mountains. We wanted their urban fix. And we sold in that first phase, 40 or 50 people from Vail or Aspen or Steamboat or whatever.
Oh, interesting. So funny. It's interesting when you describe that development. To someone like me or to a listener, they might think, well, that sounds easy. He just made the decision. He got the land. He got the partners. But it's not that easy.
Oh, gosh, no. It was a lot of money to raise and all kind of environmental issues. I remember when we first went under construction, and I got a couple of phone calls one day from Mark. And he said, we found 2 bodies today.
Oh, my gosh.
It was down by the train station. So what do you do?
What do you do? That's new.
Right. Yeah. They've been there a long time. And all these projects have incredible complexities that you cannot predict and how you're going to deal with them. But you got to you got to first go and say, "Oh, the fundamentals correct,"
Mm-hmm.
and then you've got to have kind of an attitude that when you run up against problems, you go figure out how to solve them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have been mostly good about dealing with the fundamentals. I mean, we've always said as a company, those 47 recessions are coming,
Right.
but we want to be in the premier places because the Vales, maybe the New Yorks, which we're not in, or the Aspen, those places are going to do better
Mm-hmm.
than certain secondary resorts.
Sure.
And then in those places, if you're in the best locations, the combination of being in the best places with the best location is the best risk management in the world. And so I think that's a good risk management strategy. Now, the final and most important thing is that you've got to have a team there on the ground that's professional and competent and committed. Because in East West, we're in 4 or 5 different markets. They can't be developed by now, not me anymore, but by Chris and his team in Denver. It's the local people that make a difference. So great locations, best locations within that market, and a great team. And then what you do is you build, relationships with the community, whether it's the town council or the commissioners or the planning people
Mm-hmm.
or the banks.
And so that commitment and resilience is so important.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. I mean, that's why we've survived 3 or
Mhm.
4 recessions
Mm-hmm.
since we got started with number 5 out there somewhere.
Yeah. Cherry Creek. That's a
Yeah.
great example of something that Amy Cara has been heading up, but the
Yeah.
resilience that takes, the commitment that takes.
Well, the
Long
funny
period of
thing
time.
about that is that Mark and I walked that site in 2001 with who we thought was the owner, Taubman and Company, and they were thinking about doing some redevelopment.
Okay.
And they kind of in the end said no. And so Mark and I said, we kind of followed that forever
Mm-hmm.
until it was about 5 years ago that we got a phone call that they were interested in maybe doing something. So it was, it took a long time.
It took a long time. And
Yeah.
it's now we're getting there, which is great.
Well, we're going
So
to
exciting.
talk to Amy yesterday, and we're hopefully going to break ground late February, early March.
Yeah.
We actually sort of started already, and they've done the asbestos cleanup and so forth, but the buildings will start coming down here in a couple of months.
That's great. It would be a mistake not to talk about a little bit more about the other areas in which we have developments going.
Right.
Charleston is one, and then Utah. Can you talk about those as well, and why you ended
Sure.
up exploring those areas?
Well, let's first talk about Utah. I mean, obviously, very similar to Vail.
Mm-hmm.
And, we went there for over 15, 16 years ago. Jim Hill, who worked for us in Denver, took the lead, did a wonderful job. And Craig Farrar worked a lot with him on that, was kind of the leader. And we did 6 or 7 projects there that were very successful and so forth. And now Bill Fivash has led that effort. Bill worked. Bill started his career at the Post Montaigne
With East West Hospitality.
with East West
That's right.
Hospitality, and he was the assistant front manager. And but we've had a long commitment out there, and we've got a lot going on right now. And
Mm-hmm.
my bet it will continue. I mean, it's different. It's different from Vail, but it's not different.
Yeah.
80% of what goes on out there is exactly what happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The great advantage they've got out there is that they're 30 minutes from downtown Park City, where we're an hour and a half or 2 hours from Denver. And so the access both to the airport and to the infrastructure of the city is advantageous.
It is. Charleston.
Yeah, I actually got a call one day from Ross Bowker, who had been here, and he said he needed to move to a place that was not altitude because of some issues his wife had with altitude. So this wasn't some grand plan. And one of the places he identified was Charleston, and he had heard about a opportunity to develop a site, and he was thinking about maybe moving there. And I'd be interested. Being from South Carolina, I knew a little bit about it, and I was impressed, and had actually gotten to know the mayor of Charleston a little bit because he had come to visit our project in Denver. So off we went. Ross went down there and did several great projects. One been do for I forget how many years, 10 years plus,
Yeah.
and we've got a lot going on there right now. It's kind of cool. I mean, when Ross stepped down, Miller Harper took over. Miller had started working for us here at um, up at the Village Wall project right out of college, and Miller did a great job for some number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, he left us and went to work with a huge project in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But he did a great job. But what's kind of cool now is that Katie Ware is now leading all our projects in Charleston. And Katie grew up here.
That's right.
Her dad, Jim Ware, has been our lawyer forever, and she's off to a great start.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I do want to spend a little time on East West hospitality, as you've been talking about these locations. Hospitality has followed and gone along with that with East West Partners. It's been a sort of a symbiotic relationship that you obviously started initially. But tell us more about the history of East West hospitality. It started with helping manage the Meadows.
Yep.
And then did the hospitality group follow everywhere you went, or were there strategic times where they didn't? Or
pretty much. There was some differences because we had a lot of competitors in Park City, but generally that's correct. And it's grown naturally. I mean, we've got a few acquisitions over the years. Most of the acquisitions have not turned out well. We've done better when we've grown from within.
Yeah.
And I think that's a general direction that will likely continue.
Yeah.
It's a different business, but we're still serving the same customers.
That's right.
And honestly, what's neat is you've been here a long time. Colleen's been here forever, and there are a lot of other people who've been around a long time. So I think we want to stay in those great places, and we want to work with great developers, whether it's East West or some other people, and we've got to manage things do it right.
Yeah. Relationships seem to be at the core of East West hospitality and East West Partners, but I would say it's almost you must have solid relationships with East West hospitality. So say more about that, and how did you instill that?
Well, I think relationships are critical, even more so today than maybe in the past, because it used to be that you could manage these properties and it was secret, nobody knew about it. Now with the internet and full transparency, everybody knows everything, including the board of directors and the people. So there's an even greater need for doing it right, being open, solving problems, etc. I think Colleen and her team has just done a wonderful job of doing that. And then add on to that the whole issue of the internet and marketing and how they deal with that. I was reading the paper yesterday where one of the biggest travel agents in the world, moving even bigger, is Costco.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Didn't even exist, 5 years ago. So I mean, they obviously book this staggering number of vacations for people that have their $25 or $30 card. So and obviously people can now book more directly. And so lots of changes. I always laugh and say, well, we're not through with those changes. We opened the Westin, which was in the fall of 2008. The iPhone came out within a month or two of us opening. There was no iPhone. There were no apps. That wasn't very long ago.
No, it wasn't very long
ago.
Yeah.
And everybody said when the iPhone came out, it's going to fail. Because you remember at the time, some people had the BlackBerries and they had the little keyboard, and you had, obviously different on the iPhone. You say, well, it'll never take over from BlackBerry.
Yeah.
And obviously it did. And at the time, it was only used on AT&T. You couldn't use it on the other service thing. But think about that. So what's the next 10 years? What are those changes? So hospitality is going to have to respect its principles of doing it right and taking care of employees, but it's also going to have to be very nimble. I mean, obviously this whole thing with AI is transformative. How that's going to play out, I certainly don't know, but these changes are not going to stop. So, got to be nimble.
Got to be nimble.
Got to be nimble.
Aside from being nimble, let's spend a little time with that piece of what's going to have to stay the same. What are those principles that East West Hospitality and certainly East West Partners, but East West Hospitality, what do they need to be focused on
Yeah.
for to get through the next several years of
Yeah.
monumental change?
Well, I think we've already talked about them. I mean, first, take care of employees,
Mhm.
be empathetic for the issues they have through vacations and benefits and reasonable compensation, and then involving them in decision making, where it's not a top down organization, it's a bottoms up organization. I got a buddy that I know owned about 100, 150 Starbucks in Hawaii, and he sold it. And I said, well, what'd you learn? He said, let the maids buy the brooms.
Yeah.
And I thought that was always a great line, or at least get their inputs. I think those were fundamentals that we got to continue. And obviously do the right thing, be responsive to customers. We got to be willing not develop what we call NHI. NHI is not invented here. It's a really bad disease, and we've got to be willing to steal ideas, not steal, but borrow ideas. Maybe it's the Vail Resorts Property Management Company.
Yeah.
I would bet you $1 they're doing something that's smarter than what we're doing. So I think those fundamentals have got to remain the same. On the other hand, we've got to understand the whole marketing has changed, and what's the experience has changed. People go on vacations not to stay in a 3-bedroom condo in Vail or Beaver Creek. They go on vacation to experience
That's
the
right.
valley, whether it's to go hiking or biking or the Bloor Center or the amphitheater or whatever. And I think we have to always remember that what we're selling is the experience. And because most people it's a big deal to come here, very expensive. It requires a big time commitment. And how do we make that easy? And particularly in this area of AI.
What do you mean in particular, like this era of AI?
Well, I forget who it was, Riley, or somebody was telling me about this trip to Italy not too long ago, where they used AI to help them develop their week or 2 weeks, whatever it was, vacation, and figuring out what should they do. Well, they used to call the concierge, but now it's much easier to do that. And obviously, there will be some impacts there. I was walking down the hall, in Weston on the 5th floor, and Rosie came by. I said, who the hell's Rosie? Well, it was this robot. That's what they nicknamed. And Rosie vacuums all the hallways. How does that work? And then Colleen has been working on using drones to watch the windows in the Weston and some of our other properties, because we spend $1.5 million on that. So I think we've got to adapt to Rosie. We've got to adapt to drones. We got to adapt to AI. And it's hard to do because we know exactly where those places are going to take us. And I think also too, I think another thing will be in your bailiwick is, I bet we end up with more cafeteria type HR programs.
That's probably right.
One size fits all just doesn't work anymore. And so that's going to be a challenge I think you're going to face. But I mean, we've got a good track record with you and Colleen and others of being adaptive, but we could never, it has not stopped.
Right.
Remember 12 years ago, no iPhone.
That's right. It does. It changes so
13
fast.
years,
It's interesting. We always think about the employee journey. We've had people here for almost 40 years with you. And every journey is different. And every individual needs something a little different in that path. And so when you talk about those a la carte cafeteria style benefits, bringing those in, it's more than that though. It's how they're treated by their leaders and by each other. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of a believer that personal interaction will remain important. There's a company I know of that outsource their HR to some company in India. That's not what employees want. And if I've got a tough personnel issue, which people have their own personal issues, it's a divorce, it's a drug issue, it's family issues, it's financial issues. I mean, can AI give them a little bit of tool to identify the right questions? But ultimately, they want have a conversation with Nicole or whoever.
It's
I personally don't think that's going to go away.
I would say I would say that's accurate, and even more so in a hospitality company.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think absolutely.
Mm.
We're dealing with complicated customers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
True. Very true.
I mean, think about it. We got everybody coming out here for Christmas. We don't have any snow.
And they still want the experience
Exactly.
and the memories.
I always remember too that a third of the people in on a great snow year who come to Vail don't ski.
That's right.
They go to spas, they shop, they sit by the pool or whatever.
Yeah. It's about the experience. So here, let's shift gears into
Yeah.
legacy and
Yeah.
the next several years,
Mm.
and then advice for people who are already here and those that might join us in the future. Um, what is your advice to people who are starting and how to create their own experience and how to?
Yeah. I always remember a session we had with Jerry Bell, who's a consultant we've used some in the past.
Mhm.
And Jerry's from University of North Carolina, a very talented guy. And he was saying that he'd been a part of a major survey of, I don't know, some significant number of people who were 60 to 80 or whatever that were at the back end of their career versus their
Yeah.
front end of their career. And he asked them, one of his questions was, looking back, what three things do you think you maybe should have done different or should have focused on more?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought it was a really good question. And his answers were pretty simple. He said, number one, I should have saved more money.
Hmm.
Not a lot, but I should start saving at 20 or 30 or 40, and I should be diligent about that.
Yeah.
There's always something else you can spend money on, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, there are more things than whatever than anybody's got. So save a little bit of money consistently over time. And when you get the benefits of compound interest on that, it can be very powerful. Y'all obviously got a good program with our, what do you call it, our
401k.
401k and the contributions we make. So for gosh sakes, do that and maybe a little bit more. That was one
And do it
thing.
early.
Do it early.
Yeah.
Do it early, not when you're 50 or 60 or whatever. And that was one of the things Jerry learned. His second thing that he learned, he said, just spend a little bit more time with family.
Yeah.
Now, family does not mean your wife and your three kids, et cetera. It would just mean people that you're close to, some of which obviously are your direct family. And don't overdo it. But most people say, I didn't quite spend enough time doing things I'd like to do. And I thought that was good advice. And then he said, third, take care of your health.
Mm.
And most people say I didn't do as good a job of that. And obviously, you got to be lucky in life that your genetics are good and that you don't get terrible diseases that you have no impact on. But the facts are very clear that if you have a thoughtful, responsible diet, if you exercise in a thoughtful way, that it gives you more. Not only do you live longer, but you live better.
Mm.
And that's a pretty good thing. So save some money, spend some time with family, and take care of yourself. And I think that leads into a little bit of what I would say. There are only so many things the company can do for
Mhm.
you. I mean, each employee's got their own responsibility um, to foster their own development, right?
Right.
And how you do that is going to be important. I mean, do you find time to learn what your competitors are doing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you go out and leave East West Hospitality and, I don't know, check out others?
Mm-hmm.
Do you find, you only got so much time, but do you find time to read? And it doesn't have to be 1,000-page books, but it could be periodicals or whatever. You've got the responsibility to, in essence, do that.
Right.
And I think sometimes we downplay we think that companies and government can do too much.
Yeah.
And they can. I don't, in essence, downplay, but a lot of that responsibility is on you, Nicole.
Right.
I mean, there's some great companies out there that are doing things in the HR world that we can probably learn from. Okay,
That's
it's
right.
your responsibility to, in essence, learn.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for anybody.
So don't rest on a company sort of giving you that information and directing you. It's go out there and and
Well,
find
if
it
all
for
you do is
yourself.
rely on the company,
Right.
it's the end result's not going to be nearly as good as it could be.
Right.
And by the way, this isn't a bad thing. It can be positive, and
Yeah.
if you learn things from others, or if you take better care of yourself,
Yeah.
you'll feel better about yourself,
That's right.
and so forth. Because you will have, I mean, everybody has some bumps.
Yeah.
With spouses, with
That's
kids,
right.
with aging parents, with next door neighbors, with
Mhm.
dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, those bumps are out there, and you've got to be prepared to deal with them.
Yeah. True. It goes back to what you said about Ross in Las Vegas. He wasn't waiting for somebody to tell him. You weren't waiting for somebody to tell you, how are we
Why?
going to make this resort activated and beautiful? And
It's a
he was
great,
looking for ways to make it that way.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of a. I mean, life is a 24/7
Yeah.
experience. I
Yeah.
mean, Ross picked up the escalators. Well, have you? What age are your kids now?
21 and 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you seen out there that might help them?
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
I feel sure there's somebody you know who's got a 20-year-old who's done a good job out.
Yep.
Learn from it.
That's right.
Right.
And actively seek that, it sounds like.
Right.
Yeah.
It's 24/7.
Hmm. That's great.
Yeah.
So that's your advice for employees. Is the same true for leaders, or is there more to that? What's your advice to leaders of East West Hospitality and East West Partners, or any leader?
Well, I think it's that balance. I mean, honor those fundamental legacies, but recognize that the iPhone wasn't here 10 or 12 years from now, and
Yeah.
AI wasn't here a year or two from now, and
Mhm.
we better be nimble and on our toes, and don't just do things because we've done them in the past.
Yeah.
Be on top of things.
Mhm.
There's a new opportunity out there for us tomorrow that we don't know about, but you got to keep your eyes open in order to
Mhm.
find them.
Definitely. Um, let's talk a little bit more about legacy.
Yeah,
What do you hope? Let me ask it this way. When people talk about their careers with East West
yeah,
Hospitality, East West Partners, Life for Smith and Frampton, any
sure.
of your companies, what do you hope they tell their children and their friends about their careers with the company?
I think it was a place where we created a good environment for employees, and that they prospered through probably some tough times at some point. They did okay financially. They raised a great family. They were innovative in their jobs, and that we did the right thing. Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I
Not
mean,
easy to get to.
what we've always hoped, and I think it will. I mean, one of these days I'm gonna fall over dead, and I'm not nearly as involved as I used to, but we've got a company that's employee owned right now.
Mhm.
Uh, and I hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
And so 5, 10, 15 years from now, East West is doing great. We're not going to sell ourselves, I can imagine, to Marriott or whoever. We're going to basically stay employee owned.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good direction.
And so to those leaders that carry that mantle on, let's say in 40 years. I mean, it is quite possible that these two companies will still be going in
Yeah.
40 years. What are those core principles that you think will be very important for them to hang on to?
Well, I can't think in terms of 40 years. It's kind of like we
Okay,
started
10.
East West um, East West Hospitality. We were trying to get through the next 6 months,
Sure.
and I think you can. I don't know. I just don't think you can take that far in today's world. I think what are we going to do for the next 1 or 2 or 3 years,
Okay.
and somehow know that if we're prosperous in the next 1 or 2, 3 years,
Yeah.
it will change. This in 1950, where companies last for
Mhm.
50 years. I think I'm correct on this, that the biggest hotel company in the world now is Airbnb,
That might be right.
which is
Isn't
just
that incredible?
mind-boggling.
Well, that's change, right?
Right.
That's
So what's the next one? Hell, I don't know. Nobody knows. But so let's focus on the next 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years, and just remember those principles of, good principle, being great places, being great projects, deal with people that are reliable, treat your employees fairly, um, honor the past, but be willing to change,
yeah.
steal ideas from others, and I think it used to be companies for many, many years would have, well, I got a 5 or 10 year strategic plan.
Yeah.
I think that's hard to do
Mhm.
today. I think you got to remember the core principles, but be ready to adjust.
Tell me about East West Hospitality.
Mm.
Colleen Weiss as the president. She's got a great team of people that support her and are helping to move
Yeah.
this company forward. But what are they focused on now?
Well, I think they've got two or three new things for the future. One, and I know Colleen's really focused on this,
Yeah.
is apartment management.
Mm.
We're going to be opening in a year and a half, 2 years, close to 300 units here at West End, Edwards. We're opening a new project in Charleston. It's under construction now called Marion. It's 150 or 200 units. And we're negotiating to start two of the new buildings in Charleston, rental, and two big projects in Denver,
Mm.
Cherry Creek. So all of a sudden, if you fast forward 3 or 4 or 5 years, we could be managing just from our own projects.
Right.
I don't know what that number is, 3,000 apartments. That's something we basically manage none today.
Right.
Now, there are a lot of similarities between the things you guys do in managing East West Hospitality, but there are differences and so forth. So I know that Colleen is looking very hard now at setting up a new division that would be focused on apartment rentals. And I'm very excited about that. But it's not something that we can do halfway.
Right.
It requires a new team of people that uses some of the things from East West Hospitality, but recognizing that's a different business. And I'm pretty excited about that. So I know that's one area. I know another area on her list, which I'm bugging her about, is, and I almost hate this because we talk about the inequality between people in the United States. But the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people in the United States that have just made incredible amounts of money. And so I think that we're likely to set up a new, we'll call it new super luxury division.
Okay.
That actually deals with only the most extraordinary properties in the markets. Not that our odor's bad, but something going after people that want just the absolute best. And then what we charge for that is not as important as, I mean, they want a 3 or 4 bedroom condo in downtown Vale, but they want it decorated by world-class design. So I kind of instinctively like the idea of us establishing a new marketing division that's for the super beneficial people. So
And obviously very customized to that guest or
very
client.
much so, and that even requires a much higher level of we'll call it concierge services.
High care and attention.
High care and attention would be very much so. I think those are two areas that are important. I do know that Kevin is chasing a couple of deals in Hawaii.
Yeah.
That could be good. Hawaii's a great market.
Yeah.
Very special place, and hopefully one or two of those will come together. I think it'd be a natural growth. But I think one thing about all this, we're a private company, and we don't have to grow. And we'd like to grow in a thoughtful, intelligent, smart way to give new opportunities to some of our people, but we don't have to just grow because the stock market says we need to. And I think that's really important. I mean, if we have, let's say it doesn't snow this year, which is off to a bad start, it's okay, right? We may not make much money, we may break even a little bit, but that's okay. We'll come back in the following year. So as we look at these apartment opportunities, super luxury in Hawaii, they'll only do them if they make sense. And if we have the right people involved to take advantage of.
Kind of goes back to what you said. You don't plan 5, 10 years down the road. You don't have a target that says we're going to triple the size of our
Yeah, we absolutely do not.
You base it on what's in front of you at the moment and what you think is coming, and then you adjust to that climate.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't do anything new for the next 2 or 3 years, it's okay.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be very picky about what we do. We got great properties. We got great people. We got a lot to do. We're profitable. That's okay.
Yeah. So let's pivot over to East West Partners.
Yeah.
What are they focused on now?
Yeah. Well, I think there are two or three things. And right now they've got some big projects underway, terribly big. One, obviously Cherry Creek, which we've been working on forever, is going to break ground in a couple of months. We obviously got the big project with the Post and Courier in Charleston for that group. I mean, those are not insignificant properties. And we're obviously working with Bell Resorts. I say they, Bell Resorts on Evervale, whatever we end up calling it. That was not done yet. There are a lot of complications there, but there's a good opportunity. So their plate is full. They're very close on a new project, which I'm very excited about, extremely excited about in Palm Springs, or Rancho Mirage, I guess it is. They're all the same. And it's going to be a partnership with Disney in developing a new community. It's not quite done yet. So as they look out over the next 3 years, they don't need much new.
Right.
They've got enough. They got their hands full.
They do.
In an exciting way. So, but I think I know that group pretty well. They'll stick to the principles of it's going to be locally managed. It's got to be in a great place. It's got to be a great site.
That's great.
And they are doing a few other things that I think are very cool. I mean, one, their commitment to net zero, but is fundamentally right on. And I think that will be good. And they're focused on how do we do projects where the car is not dominant.
Right.
The more pedestrian focus, the better.
And they've been doing that for quite some time.
Yes.
That focus.
Yeah.
Well, starting with the Westin in 2008, that was LEED certified.
Yes.
One of the very few luxury.
Well, the first one was done in Tahoe.
Okay.
In Old Greenwood, which was, I think, the first commercial LEED certified building in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's been on their radar for a long time. I know it's part of their.
It has, and it's been complicated, and seems a little bit more complicated now. But it's a trend that's going to continue.
It goes right back to doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And it's not always the cheapest.
It's like Electric Pass that AIM did over in Snowmass, and JT is now done on the Westman and other projects.
Yeah. What haven't we talked about today that you would like to share with the people watching, who could be employees, they could be owners, potential clients, potential partners?
Maybe one more direction is I think we're likely to do more partnerships versus always doing everything in-house.
Yeah.
The world's got so complicated, you just can't be an expert in everything. I think you have to be open to partnerships.
I think that's probably right. They're the ones that are the experts and have a lot to share.
You can't be an expert in everything.
Yeah.
And your strength has got to be maybe bringing different groups together to collectively do good things.
That's right.
Yeah.
Harry, this has been amazing today.
Good.
To have this time with you.
No,
it's a privilege and an honor.
It's fun with you. We're not talking about an employee problem.
That's great. Makes me very happy.
Me too.
I think I can speak on behalf of all of our employees, our owners, of people that care about this company, that we thank you for building these two companies, but doing so, not just building them, but doing so with integrity, intention, and care, and the involvement you've had over the years with your vision is just made all the difference in the world for so many people. So
thank you.
We thank you for that. And to the listeners and viewers today, we thank you for joining us. Happy birthday, Harry.
I'm not going to tell you how many years.
No, you don't need to. Thanks for being here. It's been great.
Pleasure.